Welcome to the Metaphysical News Show. I'm your host, Rory Colgan. This is produced with InnerHealthToday.com and in association with We Are Valuable Media. Tonight, whenever you're tuning into this show, I want to share with you breaking news. The nice thing about this particular news piece is that it's going to be relevant today, September 3rd, 2016. It's going to be relevant a year from now, hopefully, and it's also going to be relevant thousands and thousands of years in the future. That's what I love about metaphysics. So I was going to share with you some research that I had done on different candidates that are running for the United States president office, I guess. Yes, there's an office of the president. Instead, I was hit by this lightning bolt of awareness saying, well, wait a minute, Rory, you're actually focusing on the wrong thing. You're focusing on a diffusion of power and of self-realization. And instead, why not focus first and foremost on what makes a person powerful? So this is breaking news. This comes to you from the great late David Hawkins. He is a man that I highly recommend. And if this talk today inspires you and instills something in you, I highly recommend this book because this is where I'm drawing some of the research from. So what Mr. Hawkins has said is essentially that consciousness, human consciousness, can be mapped on a scale. At the low ends, you have things like guilt and shame and apathy. And the realm of maybe mainstream culture, you have things like lust, which is desire-based lust. You have fear, you have anxiety, you have anger, and you have pride. Now, if I haven't talked about most of mainstream society, let me tell you that there is more. When we get into productive forms of consciousness, we get into courage, we get into neutrality, acceptance, willingness, reason, love, joy, peace, enlightenment. Those are the positive ones. And so on the low end, you have the negative ones. On the upper end, you have that scale of enlightenment or conscious awareness. So you and I, we vibrate at one of these particular levels. It's not so important right now to determine what you calibrate at. But again, I highly recommend the book if you are interested more in this subject. What I thought was most important to share, however, was that oftentimes in the political, geopolitical sphere that we tend to showcase our news, we end up with this sensation that we're powerless, that we have very little that we can do for things that are happening in Syria, in China, and South Bronx, or wherever we feel a great injustice is occurring. So what I'd like to do just for a moment is help you see that you can do everything that the world needs right from your home. Right from your very own home, your own life. You don't have to volunteer in Africa. You don't have to go, anywhere other than where you already are. Now, if you want to go volunteer, that's fine. The point is, you have the power right here, right now, to bring something to the world. So we have programming. Our programming tends to keep us very confined. We think we are some sort of consciousness that can be described basically on a driver's license. And in that entirety, there is a world, there is a perspective, but it is nothing more than a snow globe. It's nothing more than a fishbowl to the great ocean that is all around us. So what I would like to do is to remind you that you are infinite awareness, that you are consciousness itself. And that because you have that power, you can claim that power. And through your waking up, produce ripples that affect all of humanity. There is a collective unconscious, as the great Carl Jung would say. There is a interconnectedness to all life. And so what we have in front of us right now is a choice between life and death. And death will come not necessarily by you wishing it, but by smaller minded people stuck in smaller fish bowls that are willing to throw human lives at each other so that they can achieve some small ends, some small gains. If you think about most world wars, they start with little issues, and then the great monstrosity of human cruelty comes out later. You know, Germany didn't start with the Holocaust. They developed the Holocaust. But even there, you could look back and say, well, wait, what happened to them in World War I and the Convention of Geneva? Were we very fair? No, we weren't fair. That doesn't mean that Germany was right. Doesn't mean we were wrong. It just means that humanity has often started down a path that brings out our worst. And what I'm saying is that we, you and I, can stimulate the right path, a beautiful, harmonious path, that humanity will bring out its better characteristics in that future. So in this particular book, Power versus Force, David goes in and says that, okay, if you're vibrating at a positive level, you say you're pretty neutral with, your life. In other words, not like apathetic, but you can see the good and bad of both. And then you also have some desire to make your life better. And you're not willing to basically give in to your fears or your doubts or your frustrations. And instead, you see life from a positive standpoint. You will be vibrating at what is called neutrality willingness. And if you are just one person, this little guy right up here, you counterbalance the negativity of 90,000 people. So the frustrated, the lustful, the apathetic, the guilty, the shameful, the fearful, the anxious, the prideful. 90,000 people, just with your positive attitude. That's enough to basically change the vibration of a town. I hope you understand the groundbreakingness of this. If you dedicate your life to living it the greatest, the best that you can, if you can accept the negative things that happen to you along with the positive, then you have the power to counterbalance the negativity of 90,000 people. Now, as you should be getting filled with energy and inspiration, let's look just a few steps higher and see what love, the power that says, I am another yourself, the power that is beyond emotion, beyond temperament, beyond changing, and instead is an inclusive force that takes, from smallest rock to greatest tree, to humans in sub-Saharan Africa, to New York City, and sees them as a part of this wonderful, beautiful tapestry of life that deserves a life. If you can see that and you can live that, then you are like this woman, vibrating at love. Now, what can love do for the world? Well, love is equal to 750,000 negative people. So again, the shameful, the guilty, the angry, the prideful, the fearful, the lusting, all of those people, 750,000 of them, you can counterbalance just simply by being in love. And that is essentially the consciousness that can support a whole city. So my friends, this is groundbreaking news. Science is starting to show that we have the power to affect the whole planet with our energy fields. Now, if we're vibrating lowly, we can't affect very highly. If we're vibrating highly, then our effect will naturally be high. So live your dreams, give your love, don't settle for mediocre existence. And as you start to break through the consciousness barriers of your programming, you will start to awaken the real infinite consciousness that is you. And as you do that, you will create ripples which will help other people out of their slumber, out of the morass of this weird, sticky, dark existence and into the beautiful world that is heavenly right here, right now. So, if I can do anything for you, let me know. Reach out to me at innerhealthtoday.com. If there is somebody that needs a hug, somebody that needs some love, give it. And don't give it with strings. Give it fully and completely, and it will come back to you tenfold. This is Rory Colgan from the Metaphysical News Show, in conjunction with We Are Valuable Media, wishing you to be well, to be happy, and most importantly, to be your true self.